Firstly, it's my honor to be here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the back? How about now? I was giving a political speech one time, and I stopped in the middle of the speech and said, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the back?" And the guy stood up in the back and said, "I can't hear." The guy in the front said, "Well, you can have my seat." I thought I was on that night too, but I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the invitation from Michael to just come and kind of share a few thoughts with you about my journey, which I can tell you has been a journey of challenges. But what I don't hesitate to say about my journey is that it had to be a divine journey. There's no question about divinity intervening at crossroads in my life and in my professional development. When I was a toddler, I had double pneumonia. Double pneumonia, that's in both lungs. The doctor told my mother, take him home and just spend time with him. It was that bad because it was obviously a death sentence. But for whatever reason, I'm still standing here. I often say the Grim Reaper came by to get me, and when they got to the door, they heard my mother praying, and they said, "Well, we'll just wait until she finished." But he was on a time frame. She never finished. And I really believe that she prayed me back to health. As you all know and have heard, I got caught downtown doing axe handle Saturday. And I was quickly surrounded by Ku Klux Klansmen and white racists. After getting off of work at Morrison Cafeteria, and they were hitting me with the axe handles. I was in the middle of the circle. They had me encircled. And there was a police officer standing just outside the circle, but he had decided that he was going to take a spectator's role. So I ran over to him for help. And he said, and I'll never forget, those words ring in my mind, "Now, you better get out of here before they kill you." And I ran. I ran home. I lived on Minnie Street, which is about a mile from the downtown area. And when I got home, I cried. I was not crying because I was hurt from the blows, but I cried because I was so afraid, and I ran. Because if they had killed me, that would have been a lynching. And they could have killed me that day. But I cried because I was embarrassed, because I ran, because in my neighborhood, You didn't run away from a fight. You took a beating before you ran away from a fight. But what that day did for me, I said to myself on that day, I will never run away from another fight. I will never not do something that I should do because I'm afraid, or do something I shouldn't do because I'm afraid. And at that time, it made me what I would call fearless. Now, when I say fearless, I mean that if I did something that I shouldn't have done because I was afraid of the consequences, then it was going to be miserable for me to live with. And I knew that because I never wanted to feel that way again. So in a strange way, Axe Handle Saturday actually shaped my life in a big way. Because when I went into law enforcement, I was able to distinguish myself through certain acts that people had begun to notice me. And that catapulted me to a position in the sheriff's office where I was on the upward level, and it turned out to be a blessing. Now, I can tell you, there was a lot of pushback, because there were those who thought that I was getting jobs that were not for black officers. At that time, we couldn't arrest white folk, and it was a tough time. But I, for whatever reason, because I had went into a burning house, totally engulfed in flames, and pulled a man out to safety, and ended up in the hospital myself. And with that kind of recognition, I started on that upward mobility scale. And again, Axe Handle Saturday put me in that mode. Because I knew as I stand there watching that house totally engulfed in flames, and the lady standing out front saying, "He's still in there. He's still in there." I knew if I didn't go in, I would have found it difficult to live with myself. But when I went in, I ended up being nominated and selected for Police Officer of the Year. That was a unique distinction for an African American. So, it's so peculiar. Now here's another unfortunate incident that I had while working at Morrison Cafeteria. Got off one night, was on my way home, police officer stopped me, 2 detectives, and asked me about someone stealing some steaks out of Morrison. I didn't know who it was. Only steaks I saw was the one half eaten because I worked in the dish room. And they searched me and they found 2 napkins. It's those napkins you have on the table that was wrapped the silver, that you wrap the silver up in. And as we worked in the dish room because it was so hot, we would use them as handkerchiefs. Well, I had 2 in my pocket when they searched me. And those detectives told me, if you don't tell us who's stealing those steaks, we're going to arrest you for these 2 napkins. And they put me in jail. Now, I have to tell you this. While I was in jail, I'm sitting there with my head down, totally embarrassed and scared to death because my mother had made it clear, if you go out there and get in trouble and end up in jail, don't call here because I'm not coming down there and get you. So you better stay out of trouble. So I had to call home. Guy said you got 1 phone call to make. So, but I had a pretty good chance. I knew when I called home, I had 2 sisters there. I had my brother there, my dad, and my mom. So I thought she may not answer the phone. Guess who answered the phone? But she didn't hesitate. She told Dad to go down and get me. But while I was in jail, I was with some real big-time criminals, and they were walking around thumping their chests about what they did. Yeah, man, I stole 2 cars, man, before they got me. I was on my 3rd. Another guy walked around, yeah, I committed more robberies than that, but they finally caught me too. Yeah, and I broke into 10 houses. So I had my head down. So they said, hey, buddy, what did you do? When he said that, I said, God. I said, so I tried to make it sound big, you know what I mean? First thing I said was larceny. And then they said, what'd you steal? God, Joey. So I said, 2 napkins. And boy, they all bust out laughing, calling people down the block, talking about, we got a guy in here that stole 2 napkins. But all of that turned out to be a positive for me. Now, let me tell you how. When I went to court, my boss from Morrison Cafeteria came down to court, and my father's boss came down to court to pretty much testify on my behalf. And the judge discharged the case, threw it out. But I wanted to be a detective, and at that time, they didn't want to hire black officers anyway. And the talk on the street was that black officers were taking the test, passing the test, and they were saying, well, they didn't pass, and they didn't get hired. And the fact that I had that arrest record, then everybody told me, you know you dead on arrival. No sense in you even putting in. But I can tell you, I put in anyway. I went ahead, filled out papers, and sent them in anyway. And he was right, nothing happened. But I talked to an officer. His name was Marvin Young. And he told me he had heard that I had applied. Now, here I am with a college degree, wanting to be a police officer because I wanted to be a detective. And he said, I couldn't believe how you got arrested. And I reiterated it to him. I said, that's what happened. He said, well, let me tell you something. I know the mayor. This is another divine intervention. He said, I know the mayor. Now, I have to tell you, I didn't believe it. Of course, you know, everybody say they know the mayor. Yeah, I know the mayor. The mayor walked by and waved at him. Yeah, I know the mayor. They don't believe it. But he said, I know the mayor. And I said, you do? He said, yes. He said, I'm going to take you up and we're going to talk to the mayor about this. I said, okay. Well, when you want to go? He said, right now. I wasn't even dressed. I had on street clothes. He said, let's go now. So I have to tell you, I didn't believe he really knew the mayor, but I had to go with him. We went up City Hall, went up the elevator. I'm just in tow, walking behind him. We're going to get this over. But when he walked in the mayor's office, secretary jumped up. Hey, Marvin, how you doing? How's the children? And called every one of his children's names. I said, oh my God, we own this up here. He took me in to talk to the mayor. The mayor of the city of Jacksonville. The mayor heard my case. And then he said, okay. And then he and Marvin finished their conversation and I left. And I thought, well, that was good, but I didn't think nothing was going to happen. But here's what the mayor did. Divine intervention. The mayor went down to the Civil Service Administration office and said, I want Nathaniel Glover to take the test to become a police officer. And the administrator said, Mr. Mayor, we saw his application. We know he got a college degree and all of that. Because at that time, you could become a police officer with a GED. But I can tell you right now, we don't hire ex-offenders, and he got an arrest record, and we're not going to hire him. And oh, by the way, Mr. Mayor, I don't work for you. I work for that 5-member civil service board. And the mayor told her, just for the record, I'll be reappointing 2 of them. I want Nathaniel Glover to take the test. And I got an opportunity to take the test because the mayor threatened her with her job. Another instance of divine intervention. And as she read in my bio, turned out to be the first African-American sheriff elected in the state of Florida since 1888. And inducted into the Florida Law Enforcement Hall of Fame. All of those bad things that happened to me turned out to be good things. In a strange way, even when I got ready to retire, people said, Well, I wouldn't have been retired, but the sheriff was retiring who had appointed me director and all. So I was going to leave with him. But somebody said, you should run for sheriff. You've done all of these things. You should run for sheriff. And I said, they don't elect black sheriffs in Florida. And they said, you should run. John Newman came down from Philadelphia, they had just elected the first black mayor in Philadelphia. And he came down and was insisting that I step out and run for sheriff. Now remember, I couldn't say no, because the reason I would have been saying no was because I was afraid. And the people had told me, if you run for sheriff, you're going to get out there and them white folks ain't going to vote for you. And you're going to wake up on election day with so few votes, you're going to be embarrassed to show your face. So I had to do it. I had to do it. But I said to myself, and I said to other people, the candidates have already out there and running, and they got all this money, and I don't have any money. I don't even have an organization. So this is going to be some kind of campaign. Steve and Garrett Paget came up from nowhere and said, and Steve had run for governor and his brother was his campaign manager. They said, we're going to run your campaign. So I said, wait a minute, I don't have any resources to pay you. We're going to run it for you free. Again, divine intervention. And that's what has put me here talking to you. Now, I can tell you my life has been put in writing. I wrote my memoir. It's called Striving for Justice, a Black Sheriff in the Deep South. And it talks about my challenges. It talks about everything that happened to me. Talked about my time as the sheriff's office hostage negotiator. It talks about the obstacles that I ran into. You know, every time I was promoted in the sheriff's office, someone would go get my mugshot out of the record section, paste it on the wall in the sheriff's office in the hall, and say, now we are appointing ex-offenders to chief, with my picture up there. Now, I had to walk past that. Somebody said to me, you ought to tear that down. And what I said to them, it is what it is. It is what it is. And I didn't tear it down because, let me tell you something, the way I see it, if I had gotten angry and tore it down, the word would have got out that I got angry, but it wouldn't have said much about why. So if he can't control his temper, then that's a problem. So I had to walk past that. But I can tell you, all of those things didn't do anything other than make me able to stand here before you today and talk to you about it. And that's the reason I wrote the book. I did not want to write it. People told me you should. And I told them it's not that big a deal. I don't need to write it. But after I wrote it, believe me, it's another book in me. I had to talk. I had to tell a story because they are convinced. And the school system. Yes, there was some racism in the book, but they thought that the book itself was inspiring, motivating, and encouraging when it talked about where I came from and where I ended up. And to be able to go back to my alma mater as president after I spent years over there in school playing football, and I had to clean a bathroom every day in order to make certain I took advantage of my scholarship. And that bathroom was right across from the president's office. So I tell people all the time, I made the trip from the bathroom to the president's office. But I'm glad I wrote the book because, yes, I grew up in a shotgun house. Yes, I grew up in an impoverished neighborhood. But through the grace of God, I stand here before you. And it talks about, in the book, talked about my perspective on law enforcement, where I came from, what I had to overcome. It is a true story. And incidentally, proceeds from that book will go to fund scholarships for poor kids. And some of you may already know that when I became sheriff, and I was getting a sheriff office pension, I took the 4 years, my first 4 years pension, $240,000, and put it in a scholarship fund for poor kids to go to college. It paid for 30 kids' college education. Now I say all of that to you to let you know that I think that situation, my mother praying me back to health, and Axe Handle Saturday, all turned out to be positive things, both of which could have been disaster. Thank you. Thank you. Michael said I could take a few questions, so.
One, two.
You remember a young man by the name of Walt Glover?
Yes.
I played with him at New Stanton Senior High School, and that young man was unbelievable. Should have been playing on Sundays. But were you at the time you played, could you compare to his talent?
Walt Glover was my brother. As a matter of fact, he was Big Walt and I was Little Walt. Now let me tell you, I'm so glad you brought that up. When I went to Stanton, my brother, as Alfred said, incidentally, I'm going to call him out too. At one time in Jacksonville, this man was the fastest runner in the city of Jacksonville. And the only time he wasn't the fastest guy in Jacksonville, that was when Bob Hayes came back to town. But he was one of the fastest ones, and I have to give him his credit because he was fast. But let me tell you about my brother. My brother was a tremendous athlete. As a matter of fact, they called him all world. And see, the only way I got to go to college was because I got a college scholarship. As a matter of fact, cleaning that bathroom was part of my scholarship. But I can tell you, I was not interested in sports when I was coming up. As a matter of fact, I went to my mother and tried to talk her into letting me quit school. Because the guys in my neighborhood who were not going to school were doing pretty good. And the guys that I was hanging out with, one had a girlfriend, one had a car, and the other always had a pocket full of money. And I didn't have none of that. So I went to my mother and I said to her, Mom, see, Mom and Charles, they got, and see, Mom, they don't go to school. And what I was thinking, and she said, hold it, right there. Let me help you with this, son. If you're going to stay in this house, you're going to school. And I didn't want to go to school. But I went anyway, and I wasn't about to stay after school to practice football. Anyway, my brother, I was getting most of his glory because they would say, that's Nathaniel Glover, Eugene Glover brother. I'll stick my chest out. And they would say, yeah, you treat me like a star too. And then the Lord intervened. And here's what happened. I was in the 11th grade, the last part of my 11th grade year, and they were still saying, yeah, that's Nathaniel Glover. That's Eugene Glover, brother. But the tone changed. They said, but he's sorry. And you know, you can't be called sorry in the neighborhood. I went to Coach J.P. Small and begged him to let me play football. He said, you in 11th grade, you got one more year to play. I said, please let me play. I'm Eugene Glover, brother. Play the God, play the God. And he finally gave in and he let me play football. And I played 1 year, my senior year, and was voted most outstanding offensive lineman and was given a full scholarship to Edward Waters College. That's another instance of God intervention. And I'm telling you, I believe it just like Dave, because when the first guy called me sorry, I was all right with it. But then it almost turned into a chorus. And it forced me to go and beg for an opportunity. 1 year in high school football, and was captain of the team when I was in college. There for 4 years, 2 years, I was captain. We were 30-6.
Yes, Dr. Glover. I'm a native of Jacksonville, and the lady that helped raise me, Margie Meeks, I'm sure you know her. We often talked about what happened back in the day. Has the city of Jacksonville ever made a resolution to apologize officially for what happened during Axe Handle Sunday? And if so, how would that be? How important would that be to you for them to acknowledge the wrong that the city did?
Well, I'm not sure that the city of Jacksonville apologized, but the Times Union did. Florida Times Union wrote an editorial and apologized for Axe Handle Saturday. And what they apologized for is they didn't cover it. They did not cover it like it should have been covered. And the only people that wrote about it was outside newspapers, but the Times Union didn't, because pretty much the people in Jacksonville at that time, it was almost like a network. If you were white, you were part of that network. And I'm sure that newspaper were probably getting pressure to be careful about that, and they didn't write it. But they did come back about 5 years ago and wrote an editorial and advanced an apology for not covering. And that's a big deal for a newspaper. That's a big deal. So that was the extent of the apology. I'm telling you, that police officer that was standing there watching them hit me with those bats were not, he was just spectator. Now, what I will say, and I do give him some credit, and the only credit I give him is because they were hitting me. If one had hit me in the head and sent me down, I'm sure it would have been a frenzy, and they would have killed me that day. But the fact that that police officer was there, I'm going to give him credit for he might have stopped me from dying that day. Nobody else will give him credit, but I'll give him a little bit of credit.
Considering your community stature and the positions that you've held, and I'm sure you're privy to some things, what do you see as the trajectory for the city of Jacksonville in the near future?
Well, here's what I would say, and I'm so glad for that question too. See, I think Jacksonville, think about it. When you think of the whole state of Florida, Central Florida, South Florida, and Jacksonville, and the people in Jacksonville, and I'm talking about white, black, Republican, Democrat, North Siders, West Siders, all came together and voted for me to become the first sheriff in the state of Florida since 1888. That said, that's a big message. That's a huge message for this city. And did you know they used to call Jacksonville, Florida, South Georgia? Yeah, because they thought the people were so racist here. But for them to do that, and from that day to this day, we've had an African-American mayor, we've had an African-American school superintendent who also succeeded another African-American as school superintendent. We've had an African-American who headed the Jacksonville Transportation Authority, who now hold that position, and he succeeded another African-American. We've had an African-American who's head of the Jacksonville Aviation Authority, and we now have the only African-American who is the head of a major port here in this country, Eric Green. And we have African American who heads up the Civic Council, one of the most influential groups in this city. We have African Americans who head the major hospital, Shands, Jacksonville over there, and I understand there's one over in Baptist. So, and then we have women who heads up mostly Hughes. We have African American female. I'm not African American, but a female who heads Downtown Development Authority. And we have a female mayor. So I think when you look at Jacksonville, Florida, it could very well brag about being the envy of Florida. And that was the reason I stepped out and made that video during the campaign. Because the tone of that campaign was taking us back. It was taking us back. They were penalizing Donna because she honored this whole notion of Black Lives Matter. We had most of our city officials march downtown Jacksonville saying the same thing. And they were trying to turn that into a negative. So that was the reason I stepped up, because I don't get involved in campaigns, but I had to. I had to. And again, when they presented it to me, I knew that if I didn't do it, because the Republican candidate was one of my best friends. But if I knew if I didn't do it, I would have to live with it today. And that all came from Action Outside.
Let's give him a round of applause again. And as he leave, because I had a radio show, and I think, Nat, and you can correct me, when you ran for sheriff, I think, I mean, it's your first or second term, you won every precinct except one. That was San Jose, right? Imagine that. He ran for sheriff, won every precinct, and the only one he lost was San Jose. Let's give him a round of applause again. Thank you.
Yes, I actually, I won the second term with 81% of the vote. And around that time, I had a 91% approval rating in the city. And when I would go out to speak to groups like this, I would kind of brag about I had a 91% approval rating. And I would say things like, I don't know what that other 9% were thinking. But that's the reason I'm saying that you don't have to be ashamed of your city now. We've come a long way, but it's up to us to not let it slip back. So, can I get you to promise you won't let it happen? All right.
A Ribault High School girls basketball coach, Al Alston, yeah, you remember that, has had reason to celebrate in 2003. In addition to his selection to the FHSAA Hall of Fame, he competed his 25th season with a 5th consecutive state championship, a breakthrough in Florida girls basketball history. Check out his winning record: 695 wins and 56 losses. You know what? We're going to do the snapshot, let him cover this here. And I'd like to welcome at this time Hall of Famer, Coach Alston.
Good afternoon. Some of this may sound as if I'm bragging, and it is, because I am. I'm old now, I can brag. Proud of everything that the girls we've accomplished over the years. When I was asked to take the girls basketball when I first started at Ribault Senior High School, they said, Coach, you're the only one that that come to see the girls play. So Miss Puckett was the girls' coach. She was surplus. So she said, well, Coach, would you take them? You're the only one come in here. I said, well, no men were head coaches with girls basketball in Duval County. So I said, I don't know about that. I don't know how to deal with girls. I was helping Miss Maxwell with the girls' track team, and they had Sean Cheeseborough. And I said, well, I tried for 1 year. And I did go out there and try. I put forth all the effort that I had no real experience. But I did coach for a year. And after that year, I got really involved and I stayed for 26. But the first coach of the girls basketball in the state of Florida, I was the first coach to be named head coach of the McDonald's All-American game in the state of Florida. Boys or girls, first national championship we won in 2002 out of Phoenix, Arizona, the real national championship, the best there is. In 2002, we 4-time state coach of the year, member of the Hall of Fame, 10 of them, member of conference, 20 times conference coach of the year, Tony Pacelli, coach of the year, teacher coach of the year, Jasper Awards, players and the coaches, first team state championship to win. We're the first team to win the national tournament, as I repeated before. I'm trying to rush through this. We have 8 state championship, 14 Final Four appearances, 14 sectional championship, 19 regional championship, 23 district championship, 21 conference championship, 87 winning streak in 1992 to February of 94, 87 games consecutive. We had another winning streak of 101 games consecutive, which both of those are records. Dorian Williams played for us. She was a McDonald's All-American, played at Florida State, and she's now the head coach of Reebok girls basketball team. Both of them were McDonald's All-American. Erica White went to LSU, played in the Final Four. Erica White was the first player in Northeast Florida to be drafted by the WNBA. We had Dr. Claudrena Harrell, Notre Dame graduate, played for Temple University. Didn't play her last year in school. She played 3 years. And she didn't play her last year in school because she wanted to go to Notre Dame and get her PhD, which she did and finished. Claudrena Harrell is a different story. She came to Reebok because she was out of district, but she came to Reebok. She wanted to play 1 year at Bishop Kenny. She went over to Bishop Kenny and they told her she couldn't play. She couldn't make the varsity. So she stayed out the whole year so she could wait to come to Reebok the next year. She did. We played Bishop Kenny. She scored 37 points. She came to Reebok with a 4.1 GPA, and she scored 37 points against Bishop Kenny at that particular game. Carlisa Thomas was another person that really put Reebok on the map as far as girls basketball. She played for Kansas State University. And Claudrena Harrell, like I said before, she played for Temple also. Any questions about anything?
I have a question, Coach Austin, because I went to Reebok, and you always told me, Mike, what you're doing in the hallway, you need to go to class. So I just want to know, what's your concept of having a winning formula for that many years?
Well, it's different. Everybody think, I was a good recruiter, and during that time, you were not supposed to recruit. That was illegal. But I didn't. I used to go and I would let the young ladies know we were interested in them and they liked our program. But it started from basic. You have to assume that the girls are not that skillful at anything. Don't take anything for granted. Start with basic fundamentals, and that's what we did. And then we developed that culture, the atmosphere of pressure. See, when we first started, girls basketball was not exciting. The girls would just walk up and down the court with the ball. They go play a 2-on-2 defense, and they would let you walk the ball down the court. We stopped that. We started applying pressure, and that created what we call the pressing lady Trojan. And everybody started coming to see us play when they found out that we had some talent. And we played a very exciting and fast game.
Well, anybody have any questions for Coach Austin?
Brother Austin, he is very modest. The sheriff spoke of him being one of the fastest men in the state, in Jacksonville. But what they failed to tell you that he was on the 4x100 relay team at Florida A&M University that set a world record. Bob Hayes lead was the last runner, but he started it off. He started before Rob Harris was second and Bob Harris was third.
Put it on your microphone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Austin was what's the first name? Yeah, he's the man. He was fast right out of the block. And then you had Harris come in next. Bob Paramore was next. And Bob Hayes carried it on in. Set the world's record 4x100 relay team at Florida A&M University. Very modest young man. He's my brother. He's a Kappa.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you a quick story about that. Our coach came to us in practice one day, and he said, we were invited to Florida State relays, but we're not going. We said, Coach, why? This was in I guess, 02, somewhere in that area. And so he said, we're not going. And we wanted to know why. And he said, well, Florida State coach came up to me. Notice now, we have Bob Hayes, the fastest human in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the fastest now, before, and forever. This man could run. But anyway, he said, we're not going. And we said, well, Coach, why we can't go? That's a big meet for us. He said, we're not going because the track coach told him, this is the track here. On the far side of the field, not the grandstand side, the far side of the field. He said, now, once you all finish running, you have to go sit over there. You can't sit over here. So we decided we were not going to that meet. The very next week, we went and ran in the University of Miami meet, and we were treated like superstars. Look, the atmosphere was totally different. I mean, none of that existed. And it was an amazing experience. Now, Bob Hayes was very unselfish. I mean, this guy could fly. And he always would say, I'm doing this for you all in the school. And the relays, just get it close and I'll do the rest. And he did that. So the experience at FAMU and running with Bob Hayes was a very fortunate one, and we learned a lot together. One other thing that I was going to say and I forgot, but then again, I have a reason. I'm old. Nat Glover didn't even wear glasses when he came up here. And he didn't have anything no props, but I have to do all that.
So any more questions for Coach Austin? I say she's saying something.
During the old days, you had to coach more than one sport. And when Dr. Alvin White hired us, when I say us, he hired two of us at the same time, another young man just out of college. We had to coach everything, so we did that. And we coached football, which was a good experience, but I tell you, football is such a challenging sport to coach until I wanted to get out of that in a hurry, but it was a very challenging time. Oh, I played a stint. Played a stand house.
Testing. Testing 1, 2.
And we played Pensacola, Washington, my junior year. And I don't know if any of you know Al Denson. Al Denson is the best, was the best ever to come through Florida or anywhere else in terms of being a wide receiver. Al Denson, we played Pensacola, Washington. I don't know if any of you know Herbert Blackshear, used to call him Shine. But we played at Pensacola, Washington and beat them 58-0. And Al Denson caught 4 touchdowns and Herbert Blackshear 3. But every time we would call a play for for Herbert Blackshear to catch a pass, Al Denson would break off his route and go take the ball from Herbert Blackshear. That's why he had 4 touchdowns. But we were very successful at Stanton during that time. We were 9-0 in 57, only had 21 points scored on us the whole year.
Well, let's give Coach Austin a round of applause. Thanks again, Coach Austin. And I want to bring up Terry Harris, the fine host of this beautiful facility. And once Terry speaks, we will close it out with a dear friend of mine, Gregory Grant, who works for the city. Show of hands, how many of this is the first time you ever been inside this facility? Wow, Terry, I told you, captive audience. First time. This is a Black-owned business. Terry Harris is a great friend of mine. He had a vision to open this here, and I'm going to let him share a little bit about his platform. And after that, we'll bring up Gregory Grant.
Oh, all righty. I want you to ask me questions, man. You're not going to sit down. I can't do it on the fly. Hey, thank you guys for coming out. You could have been doing anything else. I am Terry Harris. I am also alum of Ribault Senior High. Graduated from Ribault, attended Raines as well. All of the stories I'm hearing from my former sheriff, Glover, I told him, you are the only sheriff I know. I don't know them other ones, but he is the sheriff. He was a dynamic sheriff, man. And Coach Austin, he was at Ribault when I was at Ribault. So this is like a family reunion. That's my loud sister back there in the back. She was at Ribault with Coach Austin. So this is very familiar ground. Also familiar ground in, just what Sheriff Glover was talking about. We come a long way, and we got to really lean into those leaders that paved the way for a lot of the younger groups here and a lot of my employees. Where are all my employees at? They're back there eating, stealing food. What y'all doing? All my employees, I couldn't have done any of this without you. Skate City, everybody knows Skate City from Sutil Drive. Y'all remember Mr. Harold Gibson? Oh, yeah. How many of y'all mamas and daddies wouldn't let you go to Skate City because they thought it was so rough? Well, I am now the new Mr. Harold Gibson. I walk about 800 times a day, front, back, up, down, and I'm starting to walk. My partner over there say, hey, man, you looking like Mr. Gibson now. You looking like Mr. Gibson. I say, I'm going to go to the front door and call your mama. Billy Timley, your mama is at the front door. How many of y'all remember that? Mr. Gibson will call you when your mama pulled up. But I'm a native of Jacksonville, born and raised here. I love the city. Skate City is just something that it was just something that we grew up on. I love skating, but this is my give back to the community. All right. I was born and raised here. I'm retired military. I know we got some more military out here. Retired chief. Where all my military, shout out to the military. I'm a retired Chief Master Sergeant of the Florida Air National Guard. I served over 35 years, 20 plus years with the 125th Fighter Squadron as a civil engineering technician. Then I transferred, I think, in 2008, and I went out to Camp Blanding to the Air National Guard base out there, and I did like another 10 or 15 years. So I have probably 35 combined years. I am also the first African-American Chief Master Sergeant of the 202nd Red Horse Squadron in Camp Blanding. Mike told me to say all that. I wasn't going to say all that, but you got to have a story. But anyway, yes, being the first Black, if you don't know anything about the military, Chief Master Sergeant is the E9 position. E9, how many y'all, who's an E9 in here? Anybody? E9 is high as you can go. Huh? What's up? E9 is high as you can go without a college degree. Anything else after that is captain, lieutenant, blah, blah. But the Chief Master Sergeant is the liaison between the colonels, the majors, the generals. They can walk in. You can have a 4-star general walk in this building right now. I, as the Chief Master Sergeant, have more power with my crew than the 4-star general. That's the role of a Chief Master Sergeant. They serve as a liaison. You're not going to tell me, Colonel, to tell my men what to do. If my men don't agree, I go back to the colonel and we handle that. So, or the captain or whatever. So the Chief Master Sergeant's role is very vital. So thank you all, your military. So I retired there. I also worked for JEA. I worked for JEA for 30 years, electrician with JEA in the wastewater department. I wasn't there. I retired in 2019 to do this work right here. I wasn't there when they was trying to get all that money because I was like, sell it! They used to hate me. I'm like, you work here. Why you wanted to sell it? I'm like, I'm leaving in a year. If I can get that $2 million they promised us. But they was going to sell it. But I did work for JEA. I love JEA. That was instrumental in doing this. Skate City really came out of a need. I'm a visionary. I saw a niche. I saw it open, but it came out of a need for your children, your grandchildren to have somewhere to go. I wanted to provide a safe, clean, beautiful, state-of-the-art environment where kids can come and have play. I'll go to a lot of business meetings. I've done a lot of seminars, and I often hear, there's always somewhere to work in Jacksonville. And looking around Jacksonville, we got plenty work. That's all we do is eat and work. When your friends come to town, y'all go to the town center, right? Then you go back to work. Your cousins come to town, y'all go to the town center. Then you go back to work. So Jacksonville, I looked out and I scoped and I said, they got a lot of places to eat and work, but there's no place to play. And I'm a big kid. I love to joke around. I also have a background in entertainment. I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 20 years. I work with all of them. I'm just sad Cat Williams didn't call my name out so I can get some more likes on my Facebook page. But I work with all of them. I work with Cat. I work with, not Steve, Jamie Foxx, Cedric Entertainer. So that's the other side of me. I really love entertaining. And that's what this is about. This is entertainment. This is a fun place where you guys can bring your kids and grandkids. It came out of need. I would always see on TV in the last 10 years that our kids are bad, our kids are misbehaving, something's wrong with these kids. There's nothing wrong with these kids. The same kids you see on the TV that's raising shame and doing their thing, we were once those kids. I used to jump the fence, Coach Austin, and get in the Reigns and Reebok game. I said, if we just jump the fence and run in the crowd, they can't catch us. So I'm very aware. So I love kids. I really love kids. We have an after-school program where we pick up kids from River City Science Academy. They come here. We're doing a summer camp. But this all came out of need for our children. Our children. They need us. And I often hear on TV, or they're getting in trouble, or they're killing each trouble. And one day I was just talking about it. My wife said, you're always talking about the kids getting in trouble and nobody's doing nothing about it. And she said, what are you going to do? I wasn't ready for that question because I said it so many times, just like many of you, right? What's wrong with the kids? But the work was laid. She said, what are you going to do? And one day I was driving to work and like you say, it just hit me. And say, I'm going to open a skate rink. I'm going to provide a safe place for these kids to go. And that's how this is birthed. I know we've been here 6 years. Unfortunately, you guys haven't been here yet, but you're here now. We've been here 6 years. January the 9th was our 6-year anniversary. And to help get the kids off the street, I know every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's over 300 to 500 kids come through those doors, and adults, and families. And I know for a fact, for those 500 to 600 kids that come here through the weekend, I've taken those kids off the street. I've given them somewhere to go. They're not breaking in nobody's cars. They not out getting drunk, smoking no weed. So that's kind of where it all went for me. So that's the part when she said, "What are you gonna do?" I said I was talented, I was gifted, and God wanted to use me in that way, and I love kids. So that's kind of how Skate City came about. I know in the last 5 years, if we just go with the low numbers, let's say 200 a weekend. Where's my mathematicians? 200 kids a weekend, 52 weeks a year. How many is that? Calculator, man. Huh? How many? So 200 kids a week times 52 times 5, that's 100. And you did that for how many? 52 weeks a year times 6 years, that's 360 weeks times 200. That's about 800,000 kids has been through this location. 800,000 kids have been through this location. We've been here 5 years. And the first thing they say, like listening to the older stories, people are going to try to talk you out of it. The first thing they said, you can't open a skate rink. You don't have the money. Everything that the sheriff said, I'm that same kid, you know. I came from those backgrounds. I came from a single mother family. I came from Brentwood. Y'all know where Brentwood? That's what they had. We had grass back then. They ain't got no grass now. But I came from Brentwood. I went to Long Branch. I went to North Shore. Okay? I went to James Dwellin Johnson. All right? I went to Stillwell. I lived on every side of town. So I'm that same kid he's talking about. There's no privileges here. But we know that when you try to do something, when you try to take on a vision, like the sheriff said, you got to be resilient. You got to have that mindset. You can't let people talk you out of it. They tried to talk me out of this. Family, loved ones, because they didn't see it day and in. But all I was thinking about, you're going to do something for the kids, quit talking and do something. So over 800,000 kids have been here. We have not had not one fight. No kids, no teenagers, period. And you see on Facebook, they fighting in Chuck E. Cheese, knock on wood, they fighting in the bowling alleys. We're part of the Roller Skating Association. We do Zoom calls every Wednesday for about an hour with about 80 or 90 roller skate rink operators on them. And their number one complaint is the kids are fighting. The kids are fighting. And I'm sitting there listening, and I say, thank God that, his hand is over this business, because we have had not one fight, not anything. Now, our problem is the parents. Y'all, the parents, yeah. Our biggest issues is the parents, but the kids coming here, they know how to act, and they behave well. So the kids are not as bad as we say they are, and I see it every day. I'm an owner-operator. I'm here 7 days a week. We are open every day, because that is, I know, some kids, I got kids come here, they say, man, we don't have nowhere else to go. And I know those boys can be really getting in some trouble, and they don't have money. I let them in. Sometimes my employees say, why you let them in? Because if I don't let them in, I already know what they're going to do, because I grew up like that. I know. So I let them in, they come hang out, and then they come back, and this is their little safe haven. They're not out there, breaking in people's cars and stealing and doing all that stuff. So that's the vision that I had for Skate City. That's the give back to the community, all right? And the community have served us well. Anybody got any questions? I don't want to go too far with it, because we're going to open in about an hour. But I'm here. I do consultations on business matters. I'm a dynamic entrepreneur. I'm an engineer. Everything you see in here, everything except the floor, one contractor, the carpet. I purchased the carpet. Everything you see in here. I'm not talking 20 people, because one of the guys, he asked in the back, and he was like, what company designed this place? What company built this? Who painted this? When we walked in here, where Billy, my partner right there, Billy, stand up. That's Billy Timley, Reigns Viking. 30 years. When we walked in here, it was a shell, right? All right. Started with the carpet, all the yellow rails around, these two hands. This wall we built during COVID when it was closed. We didn't stop. We just kept going because I wanted delivered to the kids. That's all I had in my mind. We almost lost it during COVID because nobody was coming. But while COVID won, you got to stay busy. You got to keep your hand to the plow, the Bible said, because it's going to be a reward. We stayed, we built the wall, all the artwork. That's my artwork. I painted that, all right? The Christmas tree, it took me 4 hours to put it up. That's why I'm not ready to take it down. How many of y'all ever put up a Christmas tree? Usually the women do it at home. And how many men ever put up a Christmas tree? How many men ever put up an 18-foot Christmas tree? Took me 4 hours. So I say, take the bulbs off, put some Valentines on. It's going to be up there all year round. Then people come in and say, oh, he still got his tree up. And I get 2 more likes. But everything you see, I just want you to know there's a labor of love that's involved in this. I've been working on the back. We got the little toddler area. If you haven't had a chance to walk around and see, we got the little toddler area in the back all week. I built those walls. I just finished painting it last night. And there's just everything. All the little balloons hanging in the ceiling. This big ring up here. 2 people. Me, him. All the electrical wires running. All the light rafters running. I'm just saying that to say this. Because when people walk in here, they think it's white owned. And it bothers me sometimes because they don't think we can do stuff in a spirit of excellence. So I'm in here cleaning. Our staff is cleaning. We just like you see it now. You walk out of here on a regular day, it's like this every day. So out of a spirit of excellence and a dedication to my city and to our youth, this is what I provide. I give you Skate City Jacksonville. Thank you guys for your time. I got 1 or 2 questions Mike said if y'all want to ask. I'll be welcome to entertain your question.
I'm an entrepreneur in the city, and I just want to ask, what does it cost to provide a trip for a kid in here? Yeah.
To bring your kids here, we just do a group rate. Normally, if you bring a school field trip, it's going to be $12 per child. Or guest, $12 per child. That will include the roller skates of their choice. We have 4 wheels, we have inline, we have even the little baby skates for their 2-year-old. If they can stand up, we can skate. If you need a private event, like some schools, they'll come out and they say, hey, we want from 10 in the morning to 1. You're going to have to pay a private rink fee and then just pay for the kids. All chaperones are free, and that's pretty much it. If they are not skating, if you just want to come through, everybody walks through that door pays. Okay, if you're not skating, it's $6. Okay, we do that to keep everybody from just showing up. Because people, when we first opened, oh, grandmama's with me. Well, I got to pay to watch my grandbaby. Well, you in here breathing up all the real people air. Like David Chappelle said, you know what I want to say. But yeah, if you come inside the building, you go to Disney World, you pay $100 to go reread them to the Disney World, but you don't say nothing. But we ask you for $6, it kills you.
Well, I'm gonna challenge the business people in here. I'm gonna pay for 100 kids to come in here, and if you guys, like you said, I was born and raised in Jacksonville. And, I got my grandchildren are here. And if you guys are in business and you're making the money, this would be a good place to help a kid. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna bring you a check for $1,200 on Monday.
Thank you very much. What's your name, sir? So I won't forget. Who knows this guy? Mike, you know this guy? Because they talk good in front of a camera. Remember, I'm a trained professional. Don't try this at home. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And anybody else, the last question? Anybody got anything? Yes? Who's that? That's it? Okay. Once again, on behalf of Skate City Jacksonville, man, you'll see what we're doing. Thank you, brother. I don't usually cry, but I'll cry today. So, but no, that's what we need. We need to sow in each other's lives. We need to sow into the nursing school. We got the nursing school right there. She's doing amazing things with the girls. You help them get their CNA license. And just, I'm going to say this in closing. I should have been a pastor. We all we got, Black people. And I know y'all see a lot of stuff going on with Monique and Cat Williams and all that, but Cat's telling the truth. But anyway, but we all we got. Nobody's coming to rescue us. Nobody's finna save us. We're all we got. And it's gonna take us to survive is doing what he just did. You know, doing what he just did, sowing into each other's life. That's what's gonna keep this going. That's what's gonna keep our school going. That's what's gonna keep Mike doing it, you know? And if you know. All right, I'm gone, man. You're gonna make me cry. I ain't cried since the 7th grade. I'm gonna do like Nat Glover. I ain't crying because I'm crying. I'm crying because I'm embarrassed. Let me get out of here, man. Thank you guys. We got a website, skatecityjacks.com. You're welcome to come here anytime, man. We do birthday parties, anything you need. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Give Michael and Monique a big hand for always bringing people together because it's about relationships. Thank you.
And attorney Juanita has an initiative, and she's going to share a little bit about her platform.
Very brief because I know we're crunched for time here. I'm Juanita Powell-Williams, and this is Betty Hudson. We're both with ASALA, James Wellen Johnson branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History here in Jacksonville. I've known Michael for several years, going back to when I first opened my law practice and was advertising with him. And he always comes to me with opportunities such as this. And I am so appreciative of you doing this because we're on the verge of starting Saturday Black History schools. And they're called Freedom Schools. Some of you know them from Mississippi, but these are somewhat different. It's going to be teaching Black history to our children free of charge here in Jacksonville on Saturdays only. Our pilot is starting February 17th. We'll be having an orientation with the parents and students over in the B.J. Lang Grant wing, of the Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, 2036 Silver Street. Reverend R.L. Gundy has graciously donated the space for us. He's renovating the classrooms for us. We're going to be using those classrooms. We've got volunteers that are going to be teaching Black history. And our program, our curricula is based on this book or these books that you've seen at our table. It's Black History 365. These textbooks are they're almost self-studying themselves. They have QR codes, they have questionnaires, they have note-taking sections of it. But we're going to have persons there who have volunteered their time to come in and be instructors. Unfortunately, we don't have men. We have 2 men. Two. So that's not enough. We have several that have said what we need. We all know what we need. We need to take Black history into our own hands and teach it to our children. We know if we don't do it, who do we expect to do it? But nobody's stepping up. Yeah, and the Black men that are in there are saying, well, we just want to be volunteers. We don't want to be instructors. Come into the rooms. You don't have to be a formal teaching. I'm not calling them classroom teaching sessions and your teachers. Your volunteers. All we ask for is a volunteer form and a level 1 criminal background check. And you can get that free of charge at any of these substations here in Jacksonville. You can start with us on next Saturday, or you can start with us afterward. This is our pilot. We're going to have 10 sessions, Saturdays only. And then after that, we're going to be looking into doing it full-time, Saturdays, for our children to teach them Black history. Come over and take a look at the textbooks when you have opportunity. We'll be here for another 10 or 15 minutes, I would expect. But we want to have opportunity to teach children Black history. We're starting out grades 3 through 12. However, if you have younger children, we're not opposed to gauging our curricula down to the K through 2 age group level, and we'll purchase more books for that area. But these books, even a third grade book, will have something in it, I assure you, that will tell you something about African American history before we came to the Americas that you didn't know. And some of you may be scholars, African American history scholars, or American history scholars, because we know African American history is American history. So we want to do that. And thank you for the opportunity again, Michael. And thank you all for listening, and come over to our table, sign up. We'll send you information as we go along. Our next meeting is February 24th. We meet at the Jacksonville Urban League from 10:15 to 12:15. And those sessions are either in person and they can be virtual as well. You can access them via Zoom. Thank you again. Oh, any questions? Any questions? Any volunteers? All right. Thank you. And sir, the businessman here, we have our kids are going to bring them over to see Terry to take advantage and have the kids do a road trip over here to Skate City. Thank you.
All right. As we close out, I want to welcome one of my dear friends. This gentleman got handpicked by Donna Diggin, Mayor Donna Diggin. He's a dear friend of mine. His name Gregory Grant. He's over Equal Business Opportunity Director of the City of Jacksonville. Let's give Gregory Grant a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be really, really brief. Number one, I want us to give honor to the sheriff, to the coach, and to all of those that came before us. It's because of gentlemen like this as role models that created a pathway that allowed young men like me to carry that torch. So I'm very appreciative. About 4 months ago, I was appointed by Mayor Donna Deegan to lead the city in equal business opportunity. My background, I'm a native of Duval County, born and raised. Pretty much, I spent most of my time between Harborview and Sherwood, so that was always an interesting deal. And I didn't graduate from Rebalta Range, by the way. I'm a Paxson guy. Where my Paxson people at? Where my Eagles at? The real Eagles. Yeah, all right. So a little bit about me. I've owned 8 companies here in Duval County, 8. And some of them were really successful, some of them wasn't. I made a lot of money at a young age, and I was really blessed to have role models in my life to allow me to achieve that. What I can also say is moving from entrepreneurship, I also moved into education, teaching over at UNF as a professor in business and entrepreneurship. I also teach at FSCJ, also taught at Trinity Baptist College, all business and entrepreneurship. I'm a 3rd generation tile contractor, meaning my father taught me a trade. His father taught him a trade. The sheriff is gone, and I never met the sheriff personally. Actually, today was the first time I ever saw him in person, but he doesn't realize that he was responsible for getting my grandfather a contract with the city of Jacksonville. And that left an impact in my life. And so as I transitioned from being in education and transitioned over to the government, being a consultant to business owners, I always said that I want to do something in government that will make a difference in our community for small businesses, specifically small businesses. I didn't knock on Donna Deegan's door. She came seeking out me based on my reputation. Here's what I wanted to say about that. How many of you have ever heard of the Equal Business Opportunity Division? Show of hands. Okay, so a few of you. So the EBO has been around for about 20 years, okay? And in 20 years in my research, I noticed that it's been really flat. You know, we have these programs, we have these agencies, but what has really been the benefit for small businesses? And when I dissect the program, I said, you know what? We need not just another program, we need impact. In this city, we have 20,000 small businesses in Jacksonville right now. 20,000. As far as those 20,000, how many of them are participating in city contracts or are a city contractor of Jacksonville? Less than 2%. Less than 2%. It's been that way for 20 years. In my 4 months being in this role, there are 4 things that I've fought for in 4 months, and I'm going to share these wins with you, and I'm also going to challenge you to a call to action. The first thing that I looked at was our JSEP program. That's one of our initiatives in the Equal Business Opportunity Division. How many of you heard of the JSEP program? A couple of you. That's why we have less than 2%. So we're going to be investing in marketing. But there are 4 initiatives I'm working on. One is education. Our business owners must be educated not just on how to start a business, but how to be scalable. That's a skill. We're going to be introducing classes on that, no cost to you. Number 2, community engagement. One of the biggest, I would say, observations that I've noticed in Jacksonville is as a business owner, we think that we're by ourselves. I'm going to challenge you to lock arms because I need your voices at City Council in order to fight for you. We started an initiative called the Equal Business Opportunity Forum. How many of you have heard about it? A couple people. The Equal Business Opportunity Forums is where myself and my entire staff come to every single district in the city of Jacksonville to hear your voice. And we bring the city council leaders with us so we can make immediate change. Not change that's coming, immediate change. And I said I would keep it brief, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but I would like for all of you to get with me afterwards. I need your voices at these Equal Business Opportunity Forums. Number 3, this is a big one. How many of you can use capital access in your business? Funding. If you need funding, let me hear it. Who needs funding in their business right now? All right. My first 30 days in this position, I wrote the mayor. In fact, I propositioned the mayor's administration to carve out $1 million for micro grants. And yes, I said grants. Grants for small business. Micro grants and low interest loans. Anybody heard of her $26 million bill that was just passed? Who heard about that bill that was just passed? I was responsible for writing the $1 million in there for small businesses, and we got it passed. Okay. Now, here's the thing about the micro grants and the small business and the low interest loans. This is just a start. Remember, I'm an educator. I'm a researcher. This is a pilot program. We're going to spend all that money because in October, guess what I'm going to do? 10X. And then we're going to continue doing that. But I need the whole community to be with me at City Hall so we can get the support that we deserve as a small business community. Number 4, the 4th is diversified contracting opportunities. I said earlier, there are 20,000 small businesses in Jacksonville. There will never, ever be 20,000 city contracts at one time. So I changed the program. I modified it. When you become JSEP City certified, not only are you going to have access to city contracts, but also state contracts, federal contracts, and direct contracts to corporations. Why am I doing that? Because in this city, we want to empower our business owners to be larger than Jacksonville, but treat you well enough that you keep your headquarters here. And then we all win. We all win, right? So the JSEP program, we have changed it to a way to where it's just not a certification. I mean, it's easy to get an AA certification. You can get an MBE certification. You can get the VBE certifications, and that's all great. It's like having diplomas on a wall. But none of that means anything if we can't convert it to cheddar, right? We got to convert that to money. When you become JSEP certified, my new team will be working with you and coaching you directly to help you write proposals for contract. Also, within the JSAB program, I talked about the $1 million. You have access to another bucket of $1 million. You get a contract, don't worry about bank funding. We will fund it and back it by your contract. Does not matter the dollar amount. Does not matter. I want to make sure that every small business in this city, I call it my city because it's where I'm from, is successful. And we talk about it, but I don't believe in talking. I believe in getting it done. So I challenge all of you to go to jsab.com or jsab.coj.net. Look me up, Gregory Grant, and my team. Make an appointment with us. Let us lock arms and let us help you be successful. And I'm being really brief. I didn't want to be long-winded, but time for any questions or no? I got a few questions. Yep.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. My name is Jessica Griffin. I'm the founder of Scoops of Favor Ice Cream. So I actually heard about the JSAB certification through Jack's Bridges. Okay, but can you talk about the benefits for a food service provider? Because I didn't see like a lot of options for me, but I want to know if there's some options for me.
That is a great question. So here's the myth about the program. I'm glad you brought that up. The myth is if you're not into landscaping, or if you're not an engineer, if you're not doing construction or janitorial, then the program isn't for you. That is not the case. At the end of the year, in November, before the holidays, I met with every single chief and director in the city of Jacksonville because it is a law, it is a legislation that 20% of all city contracts be awarded to my department, JSABs. What I found is a lot of the chiefs were not educated in that law. So what has happened since January, now I got fleet management reaching out to me saying, hey, do you have anyone who wash cars? We have 3,500 city vehicles that need to be done per month. Do you have a small business that can do that? Do you have a small business that can make cupcakes and do our events for us, for the Art Walk, Art Festival? That's where your business would come into play. Here's the thing. I need every business. There is money, contracts for all of us. Doesn't matter what you do. Come see us and we'll take care of you. Another question? Did I answer your question, ma'am? All right. Yep, JSEB, Jacksonville Small and Emerging Business Program under the city of Jacksonville. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Opening a nursing school myself, going around trying to find funding. I couldn't find any funding to open my nursing school, no small business, no nothing. So I had to use my savings. I had like $400,000 saved up, so I had to use all my money to open my nursing school because I didn't qualify for anything. What are the qualifications?
Very good question. And that's really loaded, and I know with time I'm gonna try to be short. So as far as the microloans and the low interest loan program, it depends on what you need the money for. However, beyond that, we've created a coalition among banks and other financial institutions that we are creating specialized pathways for entrepreneurs. So for an example, let's say you don't qualify for a traditional bank loan. Well, we have direct pathways with BBIF and other organizations we have relationships with that where my department will help you get the funding that you need directly. Okay, but see me afterwards if you still need some funding. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
I'd like to thank Gregory Grant, and as you see, he's a man of action. Definitely grab his contact information. Did you guys get some good information here? I mean, some helpful information you can share with people. So once again, thank you for coming out to the First Coast Business Summit.